All right, ready? Actually, I wasn't.
Okay, good to go.
Good to go? Awesome, all right. Good evening, Diane, welcome to the Town of Dayton Planning Board regular meeting, Wednesday, April 5th, 2023. Tonight we're at the Primetime Building, and by way of reminder, my statement is not here, this is a public meeting being video and audio recorded for cable broadcast. Can you please join me for the pledge of allegiance? That's right there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Third item on the agenda is to confirm the next meeting date.
What they did, I wanted to do is pledge allegiance, so he
Tuesday, April 19th.
I gotta go by first, where is that?
You're on camera.
I'm sorry. Well, dimensional, thank you.
Confirm the next meeting date for Tuesday, April 19th, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Wednesday.
I'm sorry?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, we hold those on Wednesdays, it's a good idea. Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, thank you. First order of business is to review, act, and discuss forming application for Michael and Paula Soroka. 1118 Smith Street, map 10, lot 13. All right.
Where's the best for me to put this, probably right here?
Yeah, right there, in the corner. And that way the camera will pick it up. Or, open it this way. Camera's over there. Yeah, I mean. Okay, that's good. Yeah. All right.
Good.
Got the floor, sir.
Yes, sir. For the record now, Zinger from Zenith Consulting Engineers. So what we're here before you is for a fairly simple A&R plan. The property at 1118 Smith Street is looking to split off a parcel known as Parcel A on this plan to, which is now known as 1156 Smith Street. And the intent of this is to basically, what they have is they have a horse corral here, and they want to be able to purchase this parcel so that they have more room for the horses.
Got it.
So basically, what it is still, there's no change in frontage. This lot, known as lot 13, still has conforming area, still meets all the zoning setbacks.
I'm concerned.
So it's just really just kind of just a deed off of land, and the intent of it is shown on the plan as well.
What's this parcel, down on the frontage? Where's the frontage?
Smith Street's on the bottom.
Oh,
Right.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, yes.
so the right of this property here. Okay, kind of middle one.
This one right there?
Yes.
How?
That's part of that parcel?
No, this is some owned by somebody else.
Okay.
So the only parcels in question are this and this. This is separate. We didn't locate it, but there's a, I believe there's a home on this.
So that's 100 feet of frontage there, right?
Here,
Yes, somewhere around there?
yes, 104 feet of frontage.
104.6 existing. And then one further south is 266.
So this ends up being 4 point some odd acres?
Correct.
This is basically a
52.
what?
4.52.
Yes, this basically is a retreat lot. No?
Well, it's actually just that it's not because it doesn't have it wouldn't have the 8 acres to meet that, but it's an existing lot.
It's an existing lot.
Exactly, yeah. So, and again, it's non-conforming as far as frontage goes, but it's not non-conforming as far as area goes. It has more than sufficient area.
So parcel that's being carved out, being rolled into lot 12-01.
That's right.
It does have conforming frontage.
All of it, how many acres is it overall?
So this is 4.5, that's 1.7, so we'll call it 6.2, plus 1.8, so
So
8 acres.
it has the 8 acres
No, it doesn't.
close to it.
Not, because they don't own, so this is a separate owner from this.
Okay,
So the idea is that this owner here, this is the existing current parcel here.
okay.
That's
Should
owned
be
by this.
6.2 acres.
That's correct. And then this parcel is being deeded to this lot here. This parcel is owned separately.
You guys see what I'm talking about? A retreat lot can be 40 feet of frontage and 8 acres.
Mhm.
This is an existing parcel of 6.2 with inadequate frontage. Okay, so if they split this off, then it becomes even less of that. You get where I'm going with this, or not?
Yeah, I guess, but it's already,
It's an existing one.
yeah, the existing, it already had the 106 frontage, no matter what.
175 is required, but I see this as existing, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know that it applies to this, that's my whole issue. I just, the thing that I don't wanna see is somebody come up next month or whatever and doing the same thing. You know, just keep.
Well, if subdividing.
Do it for one, we gotta do it for all.
Well, then, I guess what you can say is precedence was made when the original lot was approved for this particular property. You know, we're not talking about, it's not a new thing that's happening, or there's just something that was already existing and approved, so.
Yeah.
I see that as it's a very different animal altogether.
Our understanding is that not understanding, our opinion is that it's a non-conforming lot. As far as frontage goes, it's more than conforming as far as area goes. We're taking away, if we were taking away from the frontage, then we'd be taking away from its non-conforming.
Yes.
We'd be making it more non-conforming, and that's our stance on it. But because we're taking away from area and it's still more than achieves that area requirement, it's our understanding that it does still meet that requirement and they can deed off that land. That's our stance on it. I do understand your thought process as far as the retreat lot.
I do understand.
Oh, yeah, you would have to go for a special permit, but it would be one thing if there was enough area on the whole thing to do it, and we were taking away from that, and there was a special permit already granted, then you wouldn't obviously be able to do this at all, but that's not the case here. This is a separate issue. Special permit is granted through, as you know, through your board, but that would have had to have been done in the past, and it wasn't. This is just basically I don't wanna call it, I hate using the word grandfather, but it's a grandfather lot essentially.
We're just saying pre-existing.
Pre-existing, yes.
We are in the prime time of
Well,
If I may.
yeah,
So I looked into that as well. I wanted to make sure that they could do that with the frontage, the lack of the frontage there. And I was told as long as they weren't taking away the frontage, which they're not, and because they have the acreage, then it's okay. What they're doing is what they call land swap. You know what I mean?
I understand exactly, but let's just say that we have a retreat lot that was approved. And the people, you know, so they have the 8 acres, they come in 6 months down the line.
But with the
And they
retreat
wanna-
lot, they can't, because that retreat lot is, the way the deeds are written, it is forever to stay like that, and they can never subdivide it. So, and that's how the deeds are written, is that when you put a retreat lot into that deed, so say you have 8 acres, or say you even have 14 acres. Those 14 acres, for sake of example, you can't take any of those acreage out and give it to someone else. It has to stay forever
It has to remain
that way. It
This
can
was
never
not
be
written
changed.
that way, so therefore,
Correct,
good, let's go to a vote.
correct.
Megan, any comments?
No.
Mr. Woods?
No, I came in a little late, so. I will abstain.
You got the gist, right?
Excuse me?
You got the gist of what's going on here?
Yeah.
Okay. Any concerns from you, sir? Any concerns?
No, no
from you?
concerns.
Nothing? Okay.
So you guys need to know.
No, I want you to understand, my only thing is, if we do something and we don't really look at things the way they should be, which can happen. Tomorrow, somebody else could come in and do the same thing, and it'll be,
We understand.
we understand. Good, that's good, you're appointing me, so it's all right.
Okay, so, hearing no other concerns, any other questions from the members of the board? I entertain a motion to approve the Form A application for Michael and Paula Soroka, 1118 Smith Street, map 10, lot 13.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made, second. Any discussion before we take it to a vote? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5 ayes, any nays? Abstentions, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
We're the buyers.
How are you, the buyers?
Oh.
Congratulations.
I got 2 minis and 2 big horses.
Two minutes?
2 mini horses.
Oh, mini?
Mini.
Wow.
I'm right-handed.
Yeah.
What do you want, me down here?
All right, good.
Very nice to
Nice
see
to
you.
see you.
I'll tell my dad.
We don't wait.
Oh, Leisha, that's right. He was my brother's cousin.
My cousin.
Yeah.
We called them.
Yeah, yeah, last time, I forgot, last time they got together, well, the first time they got together, I
Good luck with it.
think. Yeah,
I'm
so,
so excited.
thank you guys.
We were gonna
Yes.
move, we were looking for property elsewhere. Can't find anything we like better than our house. We're happy, no, thank you.
Don't shoot all
Still
zero.
got it in hand? You still got it in hand?
I know, yeah.
Cut it all off.
I got it all up. Hey, well, good luck with your house.
Thank you.
If the deer start eating on your bushes. Good job.
The bushwhacker. Slow down. Fishing out on the west.
I fish on home, I went fishing this morning. Yeah.
So, my survey office.
This morning I got a truck.
My survey office, is all my friends, and my engineering office.
I went
I went to Dan.
to this town.
I know, I bought new ones.
I don't really have any suggestions, and I go.
So you're gonna build a brand new house?
I've got a repeater from this.
Just for the horses.
Use that from the horses only.
We wanna build like a 400. For the horses. Open it up after.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So I designed 12 condos.
Was that?
My
My wife's got.
I have for years, I had to talk to the engineer.
Whatever she says, the market.
Yeah. You do a lot, you metric.
I never retired for 10 years.
Since I was in here,
cut in hand, but she just.
I did, nobody liked it.
I looked at
Very
her.
good.
If I didn't know there was my brother things.
My brother's a pastor.
Are you with the barber?
No, they just missed one.
It was a good time, I had a good time working. Perfect for me, you know what I mean?
Good night.
You too.
Guys, thank you, have a great night, good to see you guys.
Hey, good luck.
So what do we have to do? Thank you.
Have a nice day.
All right, short agenda tonight. Next item is 4B, review of zoning bylaw section 5400, site plan review. So last time we met a couple weeks ago, we started going through the section 5400, the zoning bylaws, and not sure if anybody got a chance to go through and add some more notes to that section we started. Really just want to continue where we left off. What do you, why you smile?
I did not review any of it.
What do you, did not do his homework?
You didn't do his homework.
I know, he's going to.
I like to go, like that go down with record, on record, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. You got your book?
I do not have my book.
Oh my gosh. Show it to class,
I
you didn't do your
almost-
homework if you got your book.
Well, I got a book now.
You got a book now?
And you printed it, right?
Oh, yeah, I did.
That's a good point.
There you go.
I got it already.
I don't know, I can't see it.
Carrie, you recall
It's my,
Jim
my proficiency.
weighed in on.
I was on vacation,
Put
Jeff.
comments in there, yes.
Yeah, me too.
Isn't that just called tarot?
Well, no, I was away.
So if you see little comments on the side
I
for the
do.
questions
I
that
do.
you had, I did put comments in
So
there.
those are your comments.
Well, those are the group's comments after.
Some of them
Take
are.
it out, yeah.
Okay.
So there were a couple questions that came up. For example,
The dollar amount.
the dollar amount, but they're actually, back on procedures, you were questioning the shall. And
420, yeah.
so you were questioning shall as opposed to may. Shall is a mandatory condition versus a permissive condition. So that's why they have shall in there instead of the may. I don't know if you recall that discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it was because you wanted it to be May, that was the.
Correct. So that's why, I wanna make sure that was clarified, that we wanna make sure it's mandatory.
No, we wanted it to be permissive.
No, we.
Oh, you wanted it
We want it to
permissive.
be permissive, not mandatory.
I thought it would be, you want it mandatory.
So because the way that it reads is that it's mandatory that it's issued by the
Building
building
commissioner,
commissioner without approval. Where I
no
think
building permit or certificate.
Well, it's like,
it's like a double
it's a double negative, hang on, I gotta read it again.
Yeah,
A building permit or certificate of occupancy.
I think if we say a building permit or
Oh.
C of O
It's correct.
may be issued.
you did,
That's
right?
correct.
Shall,
That shall is correct. It's mandatory. It's mandatory that it won't be permitted by the commissioner
Unless
without,
unless.
60 days elapsed.
What?
Unless 60 days elapsed, then we didn't do anything. That was the concern, that simply because 60 days elapsed and we have not done anything, the building commissioner is now obligated to give them a.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That was the
Sentence.
concern.
That was the second part.
Yeah.
unless.
Well, no, it makes sense for everything before the parentheses, like the comma.
Oh, before the call, sure.
It's the unless 60 days elapsed from the date of the submittal of site plan, that actually, I think that's fair.
The 60 days elapsed and we haven't done. our
If-
due
if-
diligence,
if we haven't done
the
anything-
Commissioner is obliged to
if
sign
we-
off.
If we haven't, if we've not done our job in 4 meetings, then he has the right to bypass us, is what that means.
Yeah.
But it's not just bypass, it's give us a certificate of occupancy, which is a pretty high standard, right? There's a lot that goes into that.
Well, well, that's why you're saying it's permissive, not
Yeah.
mandatory. Because he has his own standards.
Right, exactly.
So it's almost saying that automatically, if we take no action for 60 days, he has to provide a certificate of occupancy. That's what that statement said. That's what that statement said.
That's a saying that goes on just about every city and town that I've ever worked on. If they don't act within the 60 days, that's it.
Right, but if we don't act within 60 days, the expectation is Jim would then act, but then he would follow his own rules whether or not he should provide one. That's not what that sentence says. That sentence says if we don't act, he is required to provide one regardless.
That's,
Like the place could have no running water, the place could have no electricity, but because we haven't acted in 60 days, he has to provide a certificate of occupancy. That's legally what that statement says.
I agree, but you see the kind of problem.
You seem to not be.
no, yeah, because why should the person be penalized for our negligence?
So if we said may be issued, it still gives Jim, am I of the understanding, it still gives Jim discretion on whether or not he wants to issue that or not?
It's almost like we get an automatic site plan review from us because we neglected to act. But Jim still has his own.
His own thing, he still has to obey by Board of Health and all of those
Well,
other
that's
things.
not what that
go-
sentence says.
Huh?
That's not what that sentence says.
That's not what it
That's
says.
not what it says. It says if we don't act for 60 days, then he has no choice but to provide a certificate of occupancy.
It actually says.
Doesn't even say building permit, it says certificate of occupancy, no building permit or certificate of occupancy.
Well, wouldn't you have to have a site plan before the building permit?
Yeah,
Yes, but it's saying unless the planning board doesn't act within 60 days. So if the board doesn't, the planning
Have we
board,
ever not acted within 60 days?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Not under my
Not
watch.
on board.
No, but
No, I don't
Could
think that
happen.
happens.
It could happen, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
These type of things are there only to make sure that the person, the applicant, does not have to wait longer than 60 days from each board. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, well, I know why the words are there after the comma, let's see, parentheses. I know why the words are there after the comma, unless 60 days have lapsed. Because you want to get it so that if one board is holding you up, you can just jump over them,
Exactly.
and if it makes sense, you can just continue, I get that. I'm stuck on a certificate of occupancy, having to be issued,
so,
which is weird, because I don't know why, I don't understand at any point in time how a site plan would go anywhere near a certificate of occupancy.
Exactly,
Timeline, it doesn't even make any sense.
It shouldn't.
It should never.
Absolutely not, yeah. So I've run into this in the past, and they made it just by a tiny thing, and all that was is bypassing them and going to the next board.
How about if we say this, how about it, no building permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued by the building commissioner without the written approval of the site plan by the planning board, period. And then we should.
And eliminate the 60 days.
No, we should have a 60-day statement on there, but it won't be tied to the shall statement. It'll say,
If 60 days.
if 60 days have lapsed, the building inspector may act independently to provide a building permit or certificate of occupancy. You want to keep the same word.
or some, it basically what we're doing is we're getting automatic site plan approval because we neglected that.
We lapsed. Well,
But I mean, we wanna say something to that.
yeah, those other things are in place too. If we don't act on Form A or something, doesn't the clerk, town clerk automatically have the approval? Something like that. There's a lapse in time. Too much time goes by, the clerk can actually sign off on something, right? Irrespective of whether or not we reviewed it, because it's an action on our part.
so, if I may,
Yeah, please. This is open conversation. Please
Okay.
jump in.
so
This is not the formal portion.
the way I understand this, and the way I read it, so, of course, no building permit shall be issued without the building commissioner. So the way the building commissioner would look at this is say, okay, did they get their site plan review? Right, okay, they got their site plan review and approval, okay, I can issue the building permit. Right, because that's the first step, not the certificate of occupancy, it's the building permit.
Right.
But then, say the applicant says, look, here's my proof, it got time stamped that I submitted my site plan application.
Mhm.
60 days has passed and the planning board has not acted. And here is the town clerk's, because the town clerk has to do some certification saying, yes, it was submitted in 60 days.
Okay,
And there's that automatic approval when the board doesn't act.
okay.
So there's some formalities that the town clerk has to do.
Yep.
And the applicant would have to provide that information
Okay.
to the building commissioner. Once the building commissioner receives that, then the first step would be, okay, since I have that, I can issue the building permit. And then from there, the building permit, the applicant does its building permit requirements. And then the building commissioner can issue the certificate of occupancy based on the requirements and passing the inspections.
That's not what the sentence says.
Yeah. I can see where you're.
It's bypassing all of Jim's requirements and saying he has to issue it if we don't act on a particular case.
That I don't think we should ever allow that.
It's almost like it should say that unless 60 days have lapsed, once 60 days have lapsed and the planning board hasn't acted,
Yeah.
then the building commissioner can issue the building permit.
May. It's when it becomes a May.
Yeah, I think just change the shall to may and make sense. He can now give it, he was waiting for our site plan approval, we can give it in time, so now he can just proceed as it,
But the shall makes sense for everything before the
Oh, I
code.
agree, yeah.
Because what it does is it requires a site plan prior.
Yeah.
If you make it a May, it no longer requires a site plan prior.
Right.
Oh,
I
I
think that's
well-
the council.
How about like no building permit certificate of occupancy may be issued without written approval by the current planner, except in the case of, 60 days lapse of the submittal. That's a little wordy, but
It's a lot of words here. I think if you change it to May, you're good across the board,
okay.
I think.
Change this, yeah, that's one of the ones we wanted to ask Jim about, to see if.
Well, when I did ask him, I just put it as, what's the difference between shall and may? But I can definitely talk to him about that.
Okay.
Would you like me to explore this with council as well? Or wait until we're done with all of this?
I think we should go through everything, collect all of our
First.
crazy inputs, and then once we get it all on, like you're going through and you're digitizing your comments.
Mm-hmm,
So once we do that, we can, instead of going back and forth,
okay.
I think he's busy.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm stuck on, leaving it like this, sounds like the second sentence bypasses the building commissioner. I don't really know what to say. So it bypasses building commissioner's like normal process. And now we have to do it because we've done it 60 years. That's not what we intend. That's not how we intend to do it. We want to make a site plan requirement prior to anything he does. But once he does what he needs to do, he needs to follow his own processes, otherwise. But he does anyway. But that's not what the book says.
Right.
He's never gonna issue a building permit unless the person's gonna all ducks in a row. He's never gonna issue a certificate of occupancy unless they've done everything he needs to do. So the process is being followed, the words are unloaded.
Just amazing how they can be interpreted so many times.
That's why you need lawyers, man. Some of it is straightforward, some of it's, open to interpretation. You still in the same section there, Chris? You wanna share? Oh, you can just take notes on what we just talked about. Okay. Correct, awesome. What else, Dan? It's like you get a lot of notes there.
No building permit or certificate of occupancy. These are so far apart.
Yeah, the timeline,
Yeah.
it's like they don't make, they should be together,
No, exactly. I think
they
the
should be together.
certificate of occupancy is the last thing that goes in. And why don't we just take that right out of there? And what's the point of having the two together?
It's just saying all his stuff can't come before ours, but the way it's written doesn't make sense. It's like, his stuff shouldn't come before we do the site plan is supposed to be step one, right? And that's what the sentence is trying to say, but the problem becomes when you say, unless 60 days have lapsed, the date of submittal of the site plan without action of the planning board, which means, you can ignore the site plan, and now that you shall do something, then you gotta do everything without any process. I think
Maybe it's covering both instances where if they already have a building permit and they're closer to the CO part and they go to change something and we don't act on it. It's covering them in that instance as well, is that?
I think it started off with 2 sentences when it was first born, and got combined into one, and people didn't think the repercussions. I don't know. Just my own speculation.
I didn't have any other comments until we get up to 5445, so.
Okay, so Carrie captured another one where we talked about scaling. I don't mean scaling like fish, but
Yeah, where it says standard,
5430.
yeah. It
Trying to
says,
figure out the standards, we don't know what the standard is.
1 inch equals 40 feet, and the comment was, this is the standard scale used.
And then right below it says 1 inch equals 20 feet.
Yeah, I mean, just
Contents of the plan.
just in my realm of what I do,
Oh, you're saying 1 inch
It's
equals
very-
40 feet is standard.
for landscape design, typically, yes.
Okay.
Civil plans, it's either 30 or 40, but landscape, which that section covers.
Yep.
Is typically a larger scale than architectural plans, which are normally 1 in 20, just in what I see on a day-to-day.
Right, but do we think that 5430 is talking about the same thing as 5440? Preparation of plans, submit a pre-application sketch. Just talking a pre-application sketch for the project. And to schedule a comment period on a regular meeting with the board. I think that's what we did that, we're gonna do that. Site plans shall be submitted on 2436 sheets. Plans to be prepared by a registered professional engineer, land surveyor, architect, landscape architect, appropriate dimensions and scales shall be adequate to determine that all requirements are met. To make a complete analysis and evaluation of the proposal, all plans shall have a minimum of 1 to 40. And then, that seems like, this is like the pre-application sketch is 1 equals 40. And then it looks like
If you look
when
at
you
it-
submit the 6 packages, what's that right there, what's that scale?
1 to 40.
1 to 40.
Which is at this level of, I don't know, being zoomed out is common.
Right.
That's all I was saying.
Yeah, so this looks like this is when he had the 24 by 36, I assume that's what he had for the drawing we sent.
Yes.
Those are probably same scale.
Correct.
Right, so, but this is talking about a pre-application sketch, and then down here it talks about contents of plan. Promise it uses the word plans over and over again interchangeably, it's not the same thing. Second, I'm killing you guys going back and forth there, sorry. But 6 separate plans prepared at a scale of 1 inch equals 20 feet, alright? Or any, or such other scale as may be approved by the planning board. The plans are, so it talks about, and then it says, locus plan of 1 to 100 feet, 1 inch is 100 feet, yada, 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 it talks about all these things in there. But these sound like 2 different things. 5430 looks like it's talking about one thing, which we never see. And then 5440, which sounds like things we do see, but it's in a 1. But it doesn't actually limit somebody to 1 inch equals 20 feet, it says, or such other scale as may be approved by the planning board. Whatever that means. I don't recall anybody asking me to approve a scale on a drawing. So why even say?
What difference does it make what scale it is?
I think you just do it for readability, so somebody doesn't come in, do something ridiculous.
You can read it.
It's,
I mean, we should just make sure that it's legible or something like that, but I don't think it makes a difference whether it's 20 to 1 or 40 to 1.
I think somebody came and said, what scale do you guys want? Oh, we should just put that in the book.
I think you have to have something in the book, at least a minimum. Otherwise you'll be getting phone calls a lot, saying what scales do you want to use?
Scale they want to use.
And you could say, I'm not there anymore, right? And if you have
Some of
a,
these people need direction,
yeah,
gotta tell them what they want.
That's why I said a lot of details are.
I think the 1 in 40 minimum is fine, because
Yeah.
typically that's the maximum I think you'll see.
Mhm.
I've never seen a 1 in 50, 1 in 60.
No,
It's gonna vary depending on the project.
yeah,
There are projects that require that, 1 inch will cover a large area,
Well, right.
because it is a large
This
area.
locust plan is obviously a much grander neighborhood type plan from what I'm reading, which would make sense, but
and that the applicant can also ask the board, so say the 1 in 40 doesn't work because the project is so huge.
Yeah,
They can ask the board to use a different scale. I think we actually did use a different scale when we used, the special permit and the site plan review for Spring Street.
What?
I think there was a scale request. I don't remember if it was a larger or smaller one, but I do remember in the documents, like in one of their requests, to change the scale on one of their submittals for the Spring Street project.
oh, okay, yeah.
That was so long ago, but I do recall something of that nature. Because of, that whole factory was so big. And when they were doing, I think it was one of the architectural plans of the interior of the building, because it was so big. And they wanted to reflect it all on one sheet, they had to bring the scale, they had to make it a smaller scale. And if I recall correctly, I'd have to go back and look. They did ask to use a smaller scale because of that reason.
Okay, all right, so I guess we can do that statement and have them go back and forth.
Mhm.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, so, yeah, I didn't have any other comments here on these letters, but I guess the question then is like, we should be requesting this from everybody. Unless they specifically, because it says, like we said, we mentioned earlier, we said,
Minor.
is it after?
Yeah, 5450, I think it's a way.
Yeah. Planning board may upon written request of the applicant waive any requirements of 5400 for the project development to a simple development plan, so kind of using a site plan, so that's where I guess they can go, we can say what makes sense. And I don't know, if we're gonna set a standard, then we should make it the standard, and if there's things specifically like, if you don't have a landscaping plan because it's a parking lot, or anything like that, maybe you don't need some of these sections, architectural plans maybe aren't necessary, ground floor plan, architectural elevations, buildings and color rendering, it's a parking lot, that applies, so I think we can easily go along and say, all right, some of these things are necessary, but, topography and drainage plan, we qualified to, talk about stormwater drainage plans here on the planning board, we have to route that through a different body, right?
In what, I'm sorry,
I mean, if they, let's see, topography and drainage plan shall contain existing proposed final topography of 2 feet, 2 footage rules and plans for handling stormwater drainage. So is that something we typically route through here?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. So there's a lot of detail here we tend to overlook, and I think if you're making a big old parking lot, you gotta worry about drainage.
those are normally, commercial projects that
Okay.
require those type of things, and we don't have much of any of that, and I haven't seen it.
Okay. So what about the whole, written request by the applicant to waive sections? I know a lot of times people will come to us and they'll have whatever they have, 5450. They'll have whatever they have, a piece of paper or whatever they've drawn up. And sometimes it's sufficient, but do we want to make that more of a judgment call at the time of application? Or should we say, okay, go home and request waiving of these sections. Because we don't do that now.
I honestly believe that there is so many variables that can go into this that I think we should definitely leave it on a job, application. Per applicant, in other words.
Because the average person's not gonna go have an engineer scale out drawings, is that kind of what, cause I would agree with that.
Waivers are a tough thing to put down because they're gonna be all different. There's gonna be all different, situations that come to arise with that. And if we put anything in writing, we're locked into that.
Right.
If we leave it out in the open, it's to our discretion to judge, should we or should we not?
No, I guess what I'm saying is, the waiver statement talks about how, upon written request by the applicant, meaning they have to do the homework ahead of time. Have to dig into this, figure out what they believe doesn't apply to them, with really no interaction with us whatsoever.
But it still comes down to our decision whether we allow it or don't allow it.
Right,
So,
which a lot of times happens, they show up and they don't have an incomplete application, and we say, well, you need this, this, and this, and this. You have to circle and come back and try again. Just how it is, how it should be handled. It's not how it's been being handled.
Yeah, typically it's presented in front of us for waivers.
Yes, but that's not what this says. It's not, it doesn't say, it's at the discretion of the planning board to approve waivers upon a verbal request by the applicant. Written request is at a minimum an email, 5450. Probably don't have it in that printout.
I mean, in my, since I've been on, my experience has been the waiver is requested in person in the meeting.
Yes.
We usually continue that matter to the next meeting,
That's not been my experience. It's usually,
and then it's decided usually, but.
we have a live discussion and we say, all right, this is a minor site plan, and based on that, we're looking at this as a simple project, and what we have before us fulfills our requirements. There's nothing in writing.
Well,
I'm saying I wanna help people get their projects done. So if we wanna help people get the projects done, these words should probably change. Because as they're written, we can't allow that anymore.
it says may. So they may provide written requests, or they may not. That's how it's written.
The planning board may waive any
May.
requirements of 5400, but upon written request of the applicant, it's not a may.
But it doesn't say the planning board will only provide waivers upon written request from the applicant.
You read it that way?
No, I'm saying it doesn't say that, though.
the planning board may, upon written request of the applicant waive any of the requirements. So it's still to our discretion.
It is, but when you have, no, it is.
I was just
it
thinking,
is.
we're getting down to the point, we say, the planning board may, upon deliberation, do what they feel.
When you have a sentence that has, a comma and some other words in between, if you wanna know what the sentence means, you ignore those words in between.
I understand.
So read it. The planning board may waive any requirements where the project involves relatively simple plans or constitutes a minor site plan. That statement by itself is what we've been doing. But I think the qualifying statement, the condition is upon written request of the applicant. That's where I think the stickler is. So if we line out upon written request by the applicant, what you said is right. And we can do it by discretion. It can be in writing. It can be real-time verbal. I prefer in writing.
Yeah, and Carrie guides them, so she might say, you're not gonna, you need waivers, please let us know. But doesn't preclude us from that evening saying, you don't really need this, it's minor.
Okay.
No, that's what I mean, so I agree with taking out the condition of the
Oh.
written request.
Yeah,
But 9 times out of 10, Gary guidance said, you have any, these are the conditions, anything you don't think apply, just let us know that you're requesting a waiver. Doesn't mean that, they can do that in advance, and so just we have a heads up, doesn't mean that we can't also see what we can do.
okay.
And I think I mostly agree with, I wanna be able to be easy to do business with in terms of, we have something simple in front of us. It's a verbal request, I don't wanna send, Mr. or Mrs. or whoever away because, it's not in writing, so you're gonna have to, it's in the
Yeah.
summer, so you're gonna have to come back next month. If it's simple and it's
I
an
agree,
easy thing, I don't wanna.
I still,
Have you submitted your requisition at triplicate? I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Yeah, I don't wanna be difficult.
I don't either, but this thing makes it difficult. And I want to help people, I want to.
Yeah,
guide
so
them,
we're saying the
Because
same
if
thing.
they show, we're speaking from the same side. All I'm saying is the document doesn't say what we want to do. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I look at that, I'm like, if you wanna operate more streamlined and be upfront and make people understand, number one, you can't show up at 9. Okay, but,
Can I suggest, could we say upon written or verbal request, and then that fixes everything?
I think that's fair. We're not voting, we're just taking red lines. Hey, Woody. You're awfully quiet over there, you're,
Yeah.
camouflage, I can barely see you.
Yeah. I'm all for business too, but sometimes they come before us, and they're pressed for time. They get they're renting a piece of property or a building, or, they all have a timeline. But they wait till the last minute to come to us. And, that kind of don't sit well.
You know the state of court planning, your part doesn't.
Right. And sometimes, like Chris said, we have had applicants wait till the next meeting to where we can look into, make sure we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because there's nothing worse than doing the wrong thing, that's just my opinion. When we learned up at that sawmill up there, I think I wanted to put he called it a temporary structure, but it really wasn't a temporary structure. So we waited, and we figured it out, and it worked out good for everybody. They got their building up, it looked pretty good, they could make it look a little nicer, but, it is what it is. But we don't wanna hinder business, but we don't wanna do anything that's not proper. Because then the next guy's gonna come down the line and say, well, you did it for them. You did it for them.
yeah. I still say that the planning board of May covers a lot of ground there, because it is to our discretion what we should or should not do.
Yeah, it's totally, because it doesn't say shall, right?
No, that's just it.
It says
may.
It says may, but, that doesn't take away from us whether or not we wanna nitpick specifically and say, no, we really want you to do D, we really need to have a utility plan. But the sticking point was upon written request of the applicant. I wanna add upon written or verbal request of the applicant.
Okay.
And then because when it's verbal, then we can deliberate on it, it'll be documented, and then we can vote on the modification in real time.
I like that.
I do like that. Nice work, Mr. Cunha.
Thanks.
Whew.
Yeah.
And Carrie put on there per,
But I'd like to say, we do have to really watch like a minor site plan review, because everybody in that mother.
Everybody trusts the
everything,
minor.
They have a minor.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot cheaper. I won't get into,
Well, the problem is, a lot of, I understand, a lot of times these are minor, but some of them that come through minor aren't minor, and we definitely need more information.
definitely,
And I think we should push for non-minors more often.
right, thank you.
Thank you. Dan, where do you start your stuff?
Go to 5445, development impact statement.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not the contents of the development impact statement, it just has some Everything about it, comprehensive plan is required unless we waive it. The development impact can be just wide open, it's like, you may require one, but there's no real guidance about why, when. It's not required, it's only if we impose it. And I wondered why, what's different about this, that it's not a requirement unless we waive
Yeah,
it?
what's the threshold? Yeah,
And what's the threshold?
we should define a threshold. Because Dan said so. So it's specifically, it's 5430, so I don't know why we're just on call for that. Why is it 5300? That fourth 5300. Actually 5340, sorry, 5340. What's this? I don't think you have to. I brought two to share with the crowd.
I didn't really want to go like through the contents of the EIS, just.
Okay.
What that makes sense.
Yeah, there's quite a bit there, circulation, so yeah, there's a lot there. Is everything on the 5340 code? It's 45, all the way to 5345, yeah, phasing.
All the way to 5400. It looks like, you know.
Well, 5350 is different, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
That's
it's
5340, well, wait, that's 5345.
That's
5345.
its own, that's its own like header. So it brings us to 5350, so.
Okay, yeah. Up to, yeah, but this is on extension, 5345, phasing. I mean, this, right?
But typically in the past, what is the threshold when you may request a EIS? What's the trigger?
I have no idea.
Well, it looks like it's all those,
What are the requirements?
I mean, it sounds like-
Ask for it.
It sounds like it should be like a major site plan, right? Because you care about
Right,
physical environment, you care about project affecting surrounding conditions, surface water, and subsurface conditions, so you go on and on and on here. Circulation systems,
but in that case, why isn't it just required like every other content of plan listed above it? Unless we choose to waive it.
which is odd because you do need drainage calculations. There's some duplication here.
Yeah, there is, that's.
is this maybe when we should, get Jim's way in and see when he would normally see a DIS plan versus us? Maybe it's something we don't wanna change and open up a can of worms that we don't want to.
Okay, at the discretion of the special permit granting authority, the submittal of development impact statement, this may be required at the expense of the applicant. That's all it said, at the discretion. There's no threshold. That's weird, I don't know why I do with this.
Almost sounds like if you see a project come through that looks like would be like a high impact to a certain area, which would be at the determination of the planning board. Unless you can say, ooh. Right, we need to have a development impact statement, because it looks like what you're proposing is gonna cause a lot of traffic, or, so say you're, say 620 Spring Street, right? Say they were gonna put a supermarket in there. Right?
Yeah,
Now,
so.
I just think we should define who.
yeah, right,
What does that do? You need a EIS.
yeah,
Can you
exactly.
define that?
At the same time,
Maybe we
I think it's hard to define,
it's hard to put, that could be 1,000 different things that would
Yeah.
fall into that. So I think by I almost think that by leaving it somewhat gray, it just leaves things up to, forces us to review.
Let me ask the question, before we sat down and looked at this, did you know that statement was there?
No.
There you go. So
Right.
I think if nothing else, this is a good exercise because
But, you
we
know,
never think to ask for that. Is there a lot of times?
and I think, I'm reading through and I can think of just one in particular, but a couple projects that have come in front of us that
Probably should have this, or
every one of these boxes.
and have done this, yeah. I think maybe they realize that they need to provide the information, it's already provided for us.
My question would be, at what point can we request such statement?
I don't think there's a role where we can ask for it. It's 100% up to us. We as a body have to make that determination. If we feel like something's going to have a significant impact on the surrounding community or the town, resources, or anything at all, that should be the trigger. If it's a small project where it's a business and they're gonna be in this area and it's low impact with customers coming and going and you're like, okay, that's sort of below threshold, not concerned about that. If somebody's gonna put like, I don't know, what's a high traffic thing, somebody's gonna put I'm gonna get in trouble saying this on camera, but a car wash or something on Main Street, like, okay, hey, we're concerned about like lighting around surrounding houses, people coming and going at different hours. We'd like some form of a DIS at that point, maybe, just not thinking grand enough, maybe a Walmart, somebody wants to put a Walmart on 138, we need to talk.
Definitely.
Then you got a major storefront, you get a lot of traffic, that definitely is like, that's on the high end of a DIS. It's like, you wouldn't even question for a DIS, it's where is that point, right? I think we as a board have to go, okay, knowing what I know about this business, having seen it in other areas, I'd be concerned about impact to the community around you and traffic and pedestrian safety, and all that's covered in the DIS. I like that because it kind of rolls it all in. Like Jim mentioned in one of the meetings, he says, what do you guys want on the site plan? Do you concern yourselves with, how much sidewalk pedestrian space you have? If you have ingress or egress too close to other ingress or egress, that's the kind of stuff where you start concerned about, hey, this guy's gonna be taking a left, this guy's gonna be taking a left, there's a chance that somebody can get into an accident. That's all of this. So if you get a lot of things in one place, or you get one thing that's going to cause a lot of traffic, I think we have to make that call. So unfortunately, I don't have a really good answer, I don't think anybody does. We definitely think about it, but I don't know if it makes sense to add words, because then we kind of hand ourselves into a corner, but I think we need to add more words to 5445. Planning board may require a DIS set forth in 5300. Well, it's not really 5300.
Yeah, I don't. That obviously has to be changed, amended to say 5340
Yeah.
at least.
Because at 5300, it's all special permits.
Yeah,
But then in a special permit, it talks about special permits shall be granted by the special permit granting authority, in that case, it would be us.
yeah.
Unless otherwise specified, only upon its written determination that benefit to the town and good characteristics outweigh the adverse effects of the proposed use, taking into account related characteristics. And it talks about specific factors set by the bylaw, determination shall include consideration of each of the following, measure socioeconomic, community needs, traffic flow and safety, adequacy of utilities, public services, good characteristics, impact. It's almost like these things should be the DIS. I don't know that we specifically call these things out of the DIS, and they should be here. So I don't think the DIS talks about that, right?
Well, I think by leaving it at 5300 versus 5340 gives us the ability to take those other things into account.
Okay,
Where if we change that to 5340, now we're getting rid of the ability to traffic flow and safety, adequacy of utilities, neighborhood character, social structures, impact on natural environment, where, and the other two I didn't mention, but if we change it to 5340, now we just got rid of the ability to use those as part of what we want in our development impact statement,
okay,
if I said that correctly.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say we don't.
I'm just trying to see if you actually already have it in there. This is already D, you have utility plans, which has the refuse and sewage disposal, storage and waste, location of hydrants, fire alarms, which is right here, refuse, fire protection, sewage, schools,
Traffic and safety.
just it. Yeah, traffic and safety zoning.
I think that 5326 is kind of the statement, steel replicated into the sentence.
Yeah. Town services tax base and what.
Yeah.
This is talking about a special permit.
Hmm.
This is a site plan,
That's true.
not a special permit. Okay. So we're past the clock here, couple guys on our app, but, yeah, I gotta think about that. Yeah, noodle over how best to do, because it's kind of like, I get what they're trying to do, but they're cutting out a section of a special permit section, missing things we care about. I'm curious if, this must have been like a standard we pulled from someplace else, maybe?
Typically, that's how it's done. They take it from another city or town,
Okay, all right.
do a little minor revision to apply to the town, and then go from there. And I don't think this one has been amended. I know not under my watch, but it hasn't been.
Everybody's got the 1,000-yard stare. I think we'll, snap it there, what do you think?
Do you have any others you wanna?
In this section, just two other questions.
Yep.
We can talk about next time, but.
Yeah, we can, yeah, I think we're done. Yeah, we're getting built. All right, so, yeah, please, keep digging in, and I think this is important, and, then we understand this better, we can, serve the people in that, I think. I think we need to clean that up, I like thinking about a threshold, but I'm bothered by how it's kind of, it's disjointed. And unfortunately, when these sections get revised, they get revised independently, and the document is never looked at as a whole document. Because
Right,
if you sit down and read this document from left to right, which I've done, you notice there's a lot of inconsistencies in sections and how the language is phrased, and I get that, because like when we were doing the solar bylaw, we were just so focused on solar bylaw, we didn't look at anything else. And so when you start looking at that and the language of the rest of the document, you realize, oh, that's not how they said it somewhere else. So, okay, it's a work in progress. Job security, Dan, job security. Years of enjoyment. All right, so you want to keep it on the agenda for next time? Is that okay, Kurt?
Yeah.
All right, so, next item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes for March 15th, 2023. Somebody please make that motion. Motion made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, awesome. Carrie, do we have any correspondence?
Nope.
Any public input? Anybody still on the call who wishes to chime in? Okay, hearing none, thank you.
Your friend,
Somebody please, thank you, make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Cable,
No, Carrie tonight.
Cable, Carrie?
good night, Zoom, YouTube.
Lady with all the.
Yeah.
Say the word.
Chris.
Oh.